The methods for blocking your animation that I like to talk about include pose to pose, straight ahead, and layering. Each of these have their advantages and disadvantages, so I'll just briefly explain what those are. Pose to pose is a method for blocking in your animation by hitting the key poses first, or keyframes. It probably relates to traditional animation techniques the most out of any other method. Pose to pose blocking gives you a good opportunity to explore those basic storytelling poses in 3D. Those poses are the most important in your animation, so it makes sense to start there. Pose to pose blocking is also easy to retime and edit later on. Since all your poses are separate from one another, you have the luxury of moving keys around without messing up any surrounding pose. This method is also very easy to show people what your ideas are early on, and it takes less time to figure out if your idea is working. Directors like seeing your work in pose to pose, and it's actually the most adopted method for starting 3D animation in the industry. So, for all of those reasons, I highly recommend we use pose to pose as a first step in our work. A challenge with pose to pose is to keep your animation from feeling like your character is simply going from one pose to the next without any sort of organic nature. But if you follow along with this course and take our advice, I'm confident you'll overcome that challenge. The next method is called straight ahead. This is a free-flowing method that naturally avoids a posy feel. This method basically starts with setting a pose at the beginning of your shot, on frame 1, then another pose on frame 4, then frame 8, then 12, and so on. Posing your character at increments of time through your shot will definitely get something down quickly, but editing this and clarifying this can be a huge headache if you're not experienced at cleaning up your animation curves, or if you're not comfortable deleting work and stitching things back together. It relies heavily on how good your reference is or your understanding for what you're animating. And I would only recommend using this if you're more experienced and fast at blocking. Another challenge in using the straight ahead method is the preservation of storytelling poses. Posing your animation in this way can lead to lots of extra motion that doesn't need to be there. The third method I want to mention is called layering. Layering is also something of an expert method for use at the blocking stage, but it's very helpful later on when we begin to smooth out our animation. Layering is basically animating one body part at a time in spline mode, as opposed to stepped. This usually starts with the hips or the head, and the timing of those parts are used as a guide to drive the rest of the body piece by piece. Let's say an animator wants to have their character look around. They can animate the head first, looking around, and then have the body follow that action, or lead the action. Layering can simplify the challenges in your shot. It can also be fast to get ideas down, and you can focus on timing the most important parts of the body first, but the curves get so complicated that your animation becomes very difficult to edit. Using layering also makes it easy for your animation to lose those strong storytelling poses and can feel watery because the keyframes of each body part tend to not line up with each other. But having said that, this is also a technique that can be used later on during our polishing steps. Though again, for your performance tests, let's use the pose to pose method for this first stage of blocking. The process of animating isn't always smooth, and there are no rules to any of this. We only have guidelines.